Federal Drive is presented by GEHA, Government Employees Health Association, proudly providing health and dental benefits to federal employees and their families. Visit GEHA.com.
The Pentagon's Cybersecurity Maturity Model certification is less than a week away from becoming an official acquisition rule. Now the Defense Department's lead small business office is polling companies about their readiness to meet the CMMC requirements. For more on CMMC finally becoming a reality, Federal News Network's Justin Doubleday joins me. Justin, how you doing?
Doing well, Eric. Thanks.
All right. So CMMC, it's been coming for a while now. I really kind of lost track, to be honest, how long we've been talking about this. But the CMMC acquisition rule is just days away from going live. Why is the Pentagon reaching out to small businesses right now?
Well, to be fair, the Pentagon has been engaging with industry for a while on this rule. As you alluded to, this is many years in the making. And on November 10th, the CMMC acquisition rule becomes final. It becomes effective after it was published earlier this fall. Now, the Defense Department's Office of Small Business Programs is just doing a what they call a pulse survey to get some idea of where small companies are in terms of their CMMC readiness. Now, CMMC, of course, is a certification program to ensure that contractors are following existing cybersecurity standards that the Pentagon maintains they should be following in the first place. But as we know, many companies may have been lagging on that. And the certification process is no small thing in and of itself. It costs money. It requires some preparation as well. So DoD's Office of Small Business Programs with this survey is probably just trying to get out there and understand how they can better tailor some of their resources and guidance for small businesses that will now have to comply with CMMC going forward.
In covering this for such a long time, businesses knew it was coming along. What have been some of the concerns that small businesses have laid out from the beginning and are still facing even now, days away from implementation?
Well, first and foremost, there is the cost of CMMC. And, you know, in one respect, there is the cost of simply improving your cybersecurity to the standard that is already required. And as we know, through public reporting of different breaches and things like that, we know that many businesses have not been complying with or fully complying with those cybersecurity standards for various reasons. Now, Pentagon officials would say that's not the cost of CMMC itself. CMMC is just the certification of those requirements that you should have been following in the first place. But as I mentioned, that has a cost too. It can cost, many thousands of dollars to get your program ready for a certification to begin with. Now, there's good news for companies here. For the first year of this being effective, the Pentagon is not going to require, for the most part, third-party certification, which is really the kind of more arduous part of the CMMC process. The first year will mostly involve self-assessments where companies simply just attest that they are indeed meeting these cybersecurity requirements. Now, that should not be done lightly because you bring in the False Claims Act and things like that if you are not being truthful. But this first year is really sort of a ramp up for companies to get ready for what will be third-party certification requirements over the next couple of years that start to roll out.
And we have to ask it. I mean, will the shutdown have any impact on the start date for these new requirements or, just being available to answer questions the first day that businesses have to comply? What's the deal there?
Well, the acquisition rule will still go into effect on November 10th. So the shutdown is not going to alter that clock at all. What the shutdown will affect is really the fact that contracting officers and acquisition officials, many of them are furloughed right now across the Defense Department. And so they won't be able to answer questions about CMMC or, check whether contractors are indeed uploading these things into DoD's database, these self-assessments when they're required into the database. So it's a very much a soft launch of the program, especially with the shutdown happening. But the rule is still going to be official next week. Matt Travis is the chief executive of the cyber accreditation body. And he spoke a little bit about, the shutdown impacts and this long journey that CMMC has been on last week at a conference outside of Washington, D.C.
rulemaking as it is has taken literally almost 3.5 years to get through. So, I've spent the last several years trying to keep everyone interested in it. Obviously, you need to pay attention. But now I'm really serious. You really do need to pay attention now, even though that might have been the case a couple of years ago. Even if the government shut down, the rule enters into effect. There won't be any contracting officers to enforce it at the time. But CMMC is here.
And that's Matt Travis, Chief Executive of the Cyber Accreditation Body. We're talking here with Federal News Network cybersecurity reporter Justin Doubleday. How ready is CMMC itself for the launch? Obviously, new rules and guidelines are only going to be as effective as enforcing them, right?
Yeah, that's right. The Pentagon has put out a lot of guidance. I mean, they put a ton of effort into this rulemaking process that took several years to get through, and really dotting all their I's and crossing their T's with that. And now the big question is, how ready is industry to comply? And how ready is the Cyber Accreditation Body and its growing army of CMMC assessors? Because they are going to need to meet the capacity for all of these industry organizations that will be calling to get a certification once it's required of them before they can get a contract. And so Travis said nearly 500 organizations so far have received a level 2 certification involving CMMC. That is going to ramp up to, many thousands that will be required, tens of thousands that will be required in the coming years. So the Cyber Accreditation Body has over 500 certified assessors right now. These are people who can go out and check whether a company is meeting these cyber requirements and then issue a CMMC certification, and ramping up the number of those assessors to more than 1,000, more than 1,500, perhaps as high as 2,000 in the coming years is really the benchmark as the Pentagon starts to ramp up the assessment requirements with CMMC.
Yeah, with that large of an undertaking, I know that this is the Defense Department, which is over half the government, but will we ever see CMMC standards go beyond the Pentagon just because, is that even feasible?
Well, that's something that Pentagon officials and the Cyber Accreditation Body, they certainly hope that will happen. They hope that other departments and agencies will adopt this in some form or fashion. Now, there is some hope for that because earlier this year, the Federal Acquisition Council, Regulation Council, the FAR Council, proposed a new rule that would establish essentially standard cybersecurity requirements for handling sensitive data across government. And so this is not the same thing as CMMC, but those standard requirements would be the same standards that CMMC measures, the same NIST standards. And so there is some alignment there coming down the pipeline. But we've also had several agencies like the Department of Homeland Security take a look at CMMC in recent years and say, it's not for us. DHS actually said several years ago they were going to go with their own certification standard because they did not feel like CMMC would kind of meet their needs, would be a little bit too high of a standard. That's on the other hand. But, folks like Matt Travis from the Cyber Accreditation Body are still hopeful that there will be kind of this wider adoption of CMMC across government.
CMMC is the most ambitious cybersecurity conformity regime yet attempted, and I think it's going to get even bigger when you see other departments saying we need that verified trust from our contracting partners to ensure that when we give them our critical information, that we know that they're certified and there's a reasonable expectation that that data will be protected.
All right. Well, we'll have to wait and see. Federal News Network cybersecurity reporter Justin Doubleday. Going to be a busy couple of days for you, Justin. Yeah,
certainly will be. If anyone has any CMMC tips in the early days, please reach out.
And you can also find more of Justin's reporting on this at federalnewsnetwork.com.